Welcome to the backstory today. I'm very excited to bring you a very good friend of mine, close friend of mine, who was here at the very beginning of our work. It was actually Lightworker back then, years and years ago when we first started, and of course has evolved into aspavo.org. In the meantime, Sandie has been with us from the beginning. She's actually a board member of the Aspavo Corporation, has been with us quite some time. I'm very proud to bring her on board today. She actually edited my first book, Remember, and helped with almost everything that we've put out in some way. She's just been a real jewel. And I'm thrilled to bring her in today. We're going to talk about quite a few things. I want to talk about the evolution of publishing. I want to talk about a lot of things. So from sedgbeer.com, this is Sandie Sedgbeer. Welcome, Sandie.
Hi, good to see you.
Good to see you, hon. Thanks for being with us here today. So tell me, we've, like I said, you and I have been talking. We talk about a lot of the crazy stuff that's been happening and so fast. It's unbelievable how quick all this stuff has elevated and so forth. One of the first things I want to talk about here today is AI. Tell me about your opinion of how AI is going to affect your business and the things that are going on with that.
Wow. The imagination of human nature just completely astounds me. AI, well, it's got its uses for certain, but it is the scariest thing that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I've got a number of writer clients who are telling me that, they used AI to maybe start their books or something. And when they show me, what AI has done, I have to say that is fantastic, and you mustn't use it,
Right.
because I think, well, I know that Amazon is supposed to be putting in some kind of, I don't know how they do it, but something that actually spots AI.
That
And if they see
identifies it.
that all AI written books,
Wow.
now, whether it's true or not, whether that's
Yeah.
just a rumor, but this is what I heard. I think that they're also looking at doing it with book covers as well, because a lot
Wow.
of people are creating their own book covers too with AI. But it is frightening. I mean, I remember seeing a manuscript recently from a friend of mine who actually used it very wisely. What she did was she was writing about, what she does and a little bit about her life, and she didn't know how to describe herself. So she decided that she was going to put some stuff in Chat GBT or whatever it's called and see what it came up with. And it came up with a fabulous description of her. And I said, now that's an okay use, for AI. But to actually use it, I mean, you think about all the words that have gone into that,
Yes.
all the words that have been collated. Your words are there. I
That's
bet
it.
your books are there. And I know mine are.
All of
I
it
had a
is.
shock the other day because I follow I follow a particular newsletter. I won't give too many details away. And they were talking about something that I thought that sounds interesting. I'm going to, press the button and say yes to that. And what I actually saw was a piece of writing that I
That you
had
did.
done
Oh,
20 years ago for a client. And and I know that when you're writing direct marketing packages, they get sold and other people
right.
use
Right. Right.
your prose. But there it was, right, in my face, the same words. And I thought, where does this end? you know where does it end? I
That
don't know.
I saw Tom Hanks had came on social media the other day, and he said, "If you see me making any political campaigns, don't believe it. It was all done by AI. I won't do it. Plain and
That
simple." It's been really interesting to see what's taking place, and of course, we're seeing people whose voices are stolen. They're emulating their voice. They've actually hired people to do voiceovers, and then they steal their voice.
Yes.
We've seen all sorts of things happen like this. I've used AI for a couple of things. I use it sometimes. I'd use it to improve my text, but what happens is it improves it so much it doesn't use words I would normally use. But the reality is it's got a lot of good uses. somebody sent me something that was just unbelievable. They basically sent me a question about metaphysics and about I forgot exactly the words they were, but they were asking questions of things that the group has said and the group has answered. And they came up with this long, long email with all this stuff. It sounded just like the group. It was unbelievable. And I know that they take it right off the website. These are the large language models that we keep hearing about, that they keep getting larger and larger because they're gathering more data from all these different places. Absolutely unbelievable stuff. So
The scariest part
it is
is
scary.
how they're using it to scam people out of money. You know, how they're getting kids and they're duplicating their voices and they're, having these calls generated that sound like it's your child or your grandchild
Yep.
talking and please send me money. I mean, that is just, we truly are in the Wild West now.
It
There's no
is.
rules anymore. There's no
It is
integrity. It's
absolutely
every man
crazy.
for himself.
It is absolutely crazy. Well, and on top of that, we have AI exploding right now, but that's only the beginning. Right behind it, we have quantum computing and, of course, robotics. They're all coming in at the same time. They're all going to hit the market and change our world very, very quickly. Quantum computing used to take, I mean, it was only 6 months ago, maybe a year ago, that we were talking in the Light Masters all about quantum computing, telling them about it. I was showing pictures of the quantum computers that Google has and Microsoft and different places throughout the world. There was about 7 quantum computers, and they take up a whole room. It was like the original computer that took up a whole room of space. They've already got it down to a small, fairly small size now. It's still not anywhere near being ready to be put out into publication or into normal use throughout the world, but it's getting close, and it's only a matter of time.
Here's the bit that interests me. I absolutely believe that we are in a different energy right now.
Yeah,
We are several levels up in energy, and we know that there are so many people waking up. There's so many people who are becoming very energetically sensitive. I've always maintained that, you know, between you and your audience,
right.
there is a thread of energy, and it is authentic, and they can feel you. They may not know that they're feeling you, but they know when you're being authentic. If you were putting out words or voices that didn't have your energy signature in them, I bet there's an awful lot of people who would feel that.
I think so, especially the empaths that we work with.
Yeah.
I've always told, for years I told Barbara. She said, "Well, just tell him this," and I said, "I can't just tell him that." I said, "You understand that we're working in front of a room full of psychics. You can't do that. Our groups are all incredible empaths that pick up things and energies, and they won't confront you with it. They'll just turn off. They'll just
Yeah.
go a different direction." So,
Yes. So
absolutely.
I wonder how that is going to affect, the race for AI, because I think that energetically sensitive people have a lot more power, you know, and
I
it's
agree.
it's a counter, it's a counter um, energy that they'll be putting out. So I'm really curious to see what happens with that.
It's
I don't
interesting. You know
think
what?
that, if you put out a book that was generated by AI, I bet people would feel that that is not your writing.
I would think so. I would
Yeah,
certainly hope so. I think they
yeah,
would get interested in the beginning because it would have my flavor, obviously, with AI taking my work basically and taking my words. It would have a little bit of my flavor. But once they started, my guess is after people got maybe a chapter into it, they'd put the book down
yeah.
because it wouldn't be cohesive in some ways.
And
Yeah.
the other side of it too is that it's making us become more discerning.
That's exactly it. That's
Yeah,
exactly it. If we know that everything we can see when we turn on the television, when we look at YouTube, anything else, all of this can be faked. If we're aware of that, we take everything with a grain of salt, which is really what we should be doing in the first place.
yeah.
So, yeah, stepping into this higher vibration is also bringing new technologies. A group equates it to the times we had in Atlantis. They said we went a different way in Atlantis. Instead of electronic technologies, we went into biology, and we started making clones, and we started making basically people that were not. We didn't think they were human, so we treated them differently and everything else. We're coming up on that too. This is going to be a fascinating journey going forward to see if there is consciousness that actually evolves out of the technology that we're working with. It's going to be really fascinating to see what takes place with this. Okay, well, tell me. Let's go back for a minute and talk about publishing in general, because you're an expert in this area. You've been doing this for quite some time, my dear, and you're really good at it.
Shall I tell you what's really interesting? You know, when I was first published back in the 80s and 90s,
Yeah.
you know, by big publishing houses, and you had the old traditional, you know, you got your advance and they put a publicity team and they sent you out on the road and you did your book tour, you know, and all of that happened. And none of that happens these days
No.
unless you're a top seller. Um, you know, but what's interesting, and anyone who self-published, that was really frowned upon. It was vanity publishing.
That's what it
Well,
was.
I was at a self-publishing conference last year, and I was hearing that a lot of well-known writers who were at a writing conference in Vegas that year were actually saying that mainstream publishing is now being called vanity publishing,
Wow.
because
It's reversed.
the only thing people get out of it is the name of the publishing company.
Wow. That's
So it's
amazing.
completely
Right?
flipped around.
Well, I used to work in the book distribution business before I started channeling. And it was very interesting. We used to have, you had all the small publishers, but you had all the offshoots. You had Simon and Schuster, you had Random House, you had Harper Row. Now they've started to really go a different way. But the whole idea was, if you wanted to publish a book, you had to submit the book. You pretty much had to have an agent if you were going to do that. They wouldn't actually talk to you if you didn't have an agent. So you had to go through the whole routine and everything that you did. When you helped me publish the first book, remember, back in 2000, that was really one of the first times that self-publishing was coming out.
Yes.
And it was still really risky. I still had to publish 3,000. I had to print 3,000 books to make it worth my while. That's changed too. Now you can print
You can
five
print on
books.
demand.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So,
So the costs have gone down. Everything has gone down.
yep.
But, you know, what you're seeing instead is so many people self-publishing that the market is very, very crowded.
Yes.
So, you know, when people come to me, you know, the first thing I say to them is, okay, writing the book is one thing. Getting the book edited is another thing.
Right.
But the real issue lies in, how are you going to promote that book?
Right.
How are you going to get the attention of the people that you want to read it? You know, that's the thing.
That's exactly right. That's
Yeah.
exactly right. And small publishers all over the world have changed.
Yeah.
When I remember, and the four books I think after that, they were published in 18 languages. So I had publishers all over the world, and then I didn't publish for many years. And then when I came back with this last book, which was published 3 years ago, the reality is most of those publishers were out of business. It was fascinating to see what had taken place. They'd stopped publishing anything. Some of them tried to change genres and change the way that they worked, but for the most part, people just stopped doing it altogether. One of my biggest publishers, a publisher I had in Dutch, they stopped publishing metaphysical books. And they were a metaphysical publisher. That's how they gained their energy. So,
Which is interesting,
yeah,
because
we've seen a lot of that.
metaphysical books are really taking off. I mean, the mind, body, spirit industry is now worth
Yes.
over 3 trillion.
Well, and
Over
I think that's
3
it. They didn't have
trillion.
competition before.
Yeah, yeah. And so, you know, it's huge. The market for spiritual books is massive. But there's a catch-22 going on, you know, because you've got the mainstream publishers who don't want to take risks, don't want to take chances on authors that don't have a following or have never published before or don't have a name, etc. They only
Right.
want the sure deal.
Right.
I have a client who has a young spiritual teacher, and he has 750,000 followers.
Wow.
So I said to him, why would you want to go to a mainstream publisher? You've got your audience right there.
Really?
You can make money with that book. You can, you know, get all your costs covered and more. And he said, well, I'd like to know just to see. So I said, okay, let's put it to an agent, which we did. The agent got a couple of well-known publishers interested. And I sat in on a meeting with one of those publishers. And it was a publisher that specializes and has a big name in spiritual books. And the commissioning editor, the whole time, she hadn't read the book, she hadn't read the proposal, she knew nothing about the book. The whole hour was spent on the figures. So you've really got 750,000 people?
Yeah,
Well, where are those people? Where have you got them? Is it Instagram? Is it Facebook?
that's right.
All they wanted to know were those numbers. And at the end of it, I said, do you really want to go with that publisher? They don't care about your book. They just care
They
about
just want
your
the number.
audience.
Yeah, exactly. They want to see your followers. Exactly.
So he's self-publishing.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good. Awesome. Yeah, it's
Mm.
it's absolutely incredible the things that have changed, and it's turned completely around. Like you said, if you really want to get picked up by a publisher, you have to self-publish first, and you have to self-publish with success. You have to be a success out there in order to be published by a normal publisher, and the money that you get for publishing, I mean, I'm sure there's people that make a lot of money out of, I'm sure there's the James Pattersons, there's the people that come up with stuff on a regular basis that make a ton of money from this stuff. But most people will make a very small portion if they have someone else publish the book. I was so surprised to find out that in these 18 languages that I was published in, 17, English was one of them, so 17 other publishers, that they offered me very small amounts. I mean, some of them offered me 4%. And I turned those down, but still, I think the highest I was paid was 12% for all of that stuff. And the interesting part is in the other languages, you have to have a translator. The translator makes as much money as the author does. It was really an awakening for me to see what was going on with the stuff.
There's a
Amazing.
worrying trend in Britain that I've been watching, and that is the publishing houses are going to well-known actors, well-known comedians, well-known television
Right.
stars,
Getting them.
and suddenly these people, who I'm sure some of them can write, but not all of them by any means, and they certainly don't have the time, but suddenly there's these novels appearing with
Right.
this person's name on it, and you really don't know who wrote that book.
That's
But
correct.
what they're doing again is they're chasing the surefire deal. They're
Right.
not willing to take a risk. They want that person's name on the book. They're prepared to pay them good money, to lend their name to the book and promote the book. And I think that's sad because there are so many great writers out there who are completely undiscovered.
No, that's true.
I've seen manuscripts from people and I've thought, my God, that is a brilliant book. Why is nobody picking it up?
That's true. I've seen that happen. I've seen that happen with a lot of our students, people that follow our work. Many of them are writers and authors and personalities on channels and do other things as well on internet that are absolutely amazing. And some of them just can't get it off. They can't get their stuff taken up or picked up in some way. So you're absolutely right. Promoting the book and being able to follow through, being able to do that and do that work, absolutely amazing, but critical.
But there are some people I know, and I've spoken to them, who have written fantasy novels, who sell their books very well on TikTok.
Oh, good.
And they say that they do a couple of appearances on TikTok every week. One might be about their book. The other one will be about something else of interest to
Interesting.
fantasy readers,
Interesting.
and they sell their books through TikTok.
Interesting. Well, we've had that happen too. We've had I had a young lady in Holland actually. She came to one of our seminars and she got some really wonderful ideas from the transition team seminar, and she wrote a children's book about basically the whole thing, but it wasn't a metaphysical book. It had a lot of metaphysical aspects, but it was basically a fiction book, and it took off. And today she's written several books now. She's just amazing lady that has taken some of this stuff and written into a different, like I said, a different genre, a different heading, to be able to carry the same message in a different way. It's been really amazing to watch. And you
Yeah,
work for you actually edit books for people professionally.
I
I
do.
I know
I
you.
ghostwrite, I edit, I coach, I do all of it.
Yeah, and you've done. And tell me about ghostwriting. Do you do ghostwriting?
Yes, yes.
Interesting.
Occasionally, I'm very careful because
Okay.
I won't take on more than two of those a year because they are quite labor intensive. And
Interesting.
when you're ghostwriting, you've really got to, in a sense, merge with your client
Yeah, you
because
do.
you've got to be presenting their voice.
Yeah.
It can be fun. It can be very hard work, and
Interesting.
it's probably the most expensive. If you want a ghostwriter,
Oh,
that's going to
sure,
cost you the most money. Yeah.
sure. That's incredible. And the last time you did a big project for somebody, you ended up being involved with a movie. Isn't that right?
Yes. Yes, I did. Started
Fascinating.
off as a book, and then she decided she also wanted to make a movie of it. So I got involved with writing the script for the movie and some of the production, and that's in the final post-production phase now, and I'm still writing the book of the movie.
Incredible. Absolutely. All right. So amazing stuff that's taken place. Absolutely amazing. So you basically are available, and you're at sedgbeer.com,
That's
right?
the website.
Right.
That's where I tell people what I do, and they can look at some of the books I've worked on. Yours are there, and it's also the home of the No BS Spiritual Book
Well,
Club,
and
which
tell
is
me about that. Tell me about the No BS Spiritual Book Club, and tell me about your other radio show. You've got some things going on here.
okay.
They're pretty
So the
magical.
No BS Spiritual Book Club is my legacy project. This is what I call my world service project. And this was dangled in front of me by I don't know who, but it came as a complete download, as if somebody was unrolling a projection screen in
I've had
front of
that
me and
happen.
saying,
Yes.
"Look at this." And it came about because I was getting pitched so many books on angels or books on this or books on that that I've done so many interviews on those subjects, and there was nothing much else that was to be said, I felt. And there are a lot of people jumping on the mind, body, spirit bandwagon because it's lucrative industry now, who, were very earnest and they're excited and they're writing books. But my goodness, I've read them all, I've interviewed them all, and it just felt like there are so many great books that are already there. And some of these new age publishing houses have very healthy, promotional budgets. And if people waking up are being pointed in the direction of these books, then they're not getting the information that's really going to move them forward on their spiritual journey. And this began to really bother me. And I was having a quiet rant to myself one night, and then, boom, you know, someone intervened. There was this picture, No BS Spiritual Book Club. This is a great
Oh, you got
antidote
the
to that.
name too. That's marvelous.
No, I didn't have the
Oh,
name at the time. I didn't have the name. I just had everything else but the name. This is the way to do it.
right.
And it wasn't even, what you think of as a normal book club where people get together to read books. It was nothing like that. Um, but I looked at it for about a year and I thought, I've pioneered stuff before and you end up losing your shirt. You get so excited
Planet
and
Lightworker
enthused by this
magazine.
mission.
Yep.
You know all about it.
Yep. I know about it.
Yeah, yeah. So I didn't really want to take on something that I didn't think I could follow through with. I knew it was going to be time, money, energy, but after watching it for a year, just looking at it out of the corner of my eye, it, it just became obvious to me this was mine to do. I
Good.
was very well placed with my history with books and everything that I've done
Right.
with books over the years. So I decided to do it. So I started it, and basically, what we do is I talk to people like you, authors, speakers, teachers, people that I've interviewed, and I ask them to give me the 10 books that influence them the most on their
Right.
life journey. Because if people are following you, they're going to want to read the books that you read
Yeah.
that got you where you are.
Well,
You know,
it's the same thing here. If I come out with a new book, everybody wants to go back and read my first
yes,
book.
exactly,
Yeah, exactly.
exactly. So we've now got something like 4 years later,
Oh,
we've
nice.
got 2,250 and growing every week, um, 10 best lists from all kinds of people, well-known people, not so well-known people, spiritual teachers, authors, new thought leaders, sharing the stories, sharing the books that influence them, that change their life, help them on their spiritual
Right.
path. And I also do a weekly interview where we talk about the intimate stories behind their selection and what was going on in their life at the time. And what I've learned with those interviews is that they're the best I've ever done. Number one, I don't have to do anything. There's no work
Right.
involved. All I have to do is talk to them about their list. But the people that, are talking about those books, they're not pitching anything. They're not trying to sell a book. They're speaking from the heart about their journey and the books that impacted them. And the love of that comes through. And so
That's true.
these interviews are just so beautiful because they're so authentic.
That's
And
true.
people really get to know the person themselves, which you don't often get in most interviews. There's always a mask on there
Right.
somewhere. So that's the No BS Spiritual Book Club. I've now had another download,
Oh,
and
good. We got a new one coming.
it's the same project, but it's an expansion. It's to take this out into the world as book clubs that people can start in their own community.
Oh,
And
nice.
we help them with the kinds of books for the people that are part of their book club. We recommend the books. We are going to be putting on events with some of the authors of those books, so people can find their tribe. People are just waking
Right.
up, who may be afraid to speak to their family or their colleagues or their friends about their new interest in spirituality, can actually have a place where they can go and find like-minded people. They can read these books, get together, discuss them, and as they grow, they're helping each other grow.
It's
Through
amazing.
through the books that they get to read, and we share with them all the right books that they could want to be reading for the stage that they're at, to make it easier for them. We're sorting the wheat from the chaff so that they don't have to
They don't have to
spend an
go
awful
through all
lot
the
of money on
stuff.
books that you know.
I was actually asked to speak at one of those groups. They read my books. They found out I was local in the same city, and they asked me to come speak, and I got to go speak, sign books and everything. It was a small group of people. It was probably less than 20, 30 people at the most. And yet it was really powerful because they all knew each other. They had created a community which
Yes,
was really beautiful, based in light work. It was amazing.
yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a
And
great idea.
that's what's needed. People are looking for community. They're
Yeah,
looking for their
that's it.
tribe. They're looking for the direction of, well, what sort of book should I be reading next? What's going to help me? You allow people to come together and meet up, whether it's online or in their local village or church hall or wherever it may be. You've got communities growing all over the world. And I've got people now who are looking at this and saying to me, we want to help you with this because this is a
Nice.
project that dovetails with, other projects that are going on, non-profit projects that are helping
Count
people.
me in. Absolutely.
So if anyone watching this wants to start a book club in there, tell them to get in touch with me
Good. We'll make
because
it.
we're doing some beta testing groups, for the people that may be interested in funding this. We're doing some beta testing groups, so I'm looking for people who want to start one.
Marvelous. Marvelous. That sounds exciting. Really sounds exciting. Okay. Last piece. Well, maybe not the last piece, but I wanted to hit another big subject that is really, you and I have been talking about it. It's with your permission, I'd like to bring up social media. Social media has been a huge part of connecting us all, and yet there's more and more problems showing up with social media. I'll tell you what the group has basically said about social media. It's been great because you can communicate with everybody, tell everybody what you're doing, what's going on. But the collection of data and being used against us, which is really how social media makes. Anytime you go online and something is for free, you're basically the product. They're taking your data and using it in some way to try and sell you something, convince you of something, or do something in some way. And social media has been great, but we had a problem. And the problem was very simple. It took off so fast that there was no regulation, no ideas, and of course they had the money behind them, so they were able to lobby Congress and lobby the different places throughout the world in different ways to stop it. But now you can actually have a website and you can invite other people to post on your website, and you're not responsible for what is on your website, which is exactly what social media is. Yeah. And because of it, it is starting to bubble up in so many different areas that we have real problems on this planet with social media. Personally, we've stepped out of X altogether. We've X'd out X. We just don't want to be there for a lot of reasons.
This is a reflection, isn't it, of what's going on anyway?
It is.
In every other arena. I mean, you're getting the polarization. You are getting the ones that want to be integrity and have, a sense of values, and you've got the complete opposite. So this is another one of those things that's dividing us. And you've got like the black hats and the white hats.
And on top of that, they're completely lost. I'm absolutely convinced that Facebook and several others have been extremely hacked, and they don't have control over it. I know personally we used to run a lot of ads on Facebook, so we had a very active ads account until it was hacked. And all of a sudden we were getting charges for thousands of dollars, and every time we'd bring it to their attention, they would reverse it, but then it would happen again. It would happen again. It would happen again. And now our Facebook has actually been shut down because they say we violated rules with our Instagram account, but they have the wrong Instagram account. They're not actually talking about our Instagram account. And they say we've sent notices to your Instagram account. That's how you're going to dispute this if you want to dispute it, but it's not our Instagram account. We have no way of doing it. So it's been amazing. And then TikTok is kicking us off we're trying to find out why, of course, and they just refer us to this long list of rules and stuff that they have on one of their pages, which goes on and on forever, which nothing applies to us. So we're finding it really interesting. But I do believe that we're at a point where it's going to crash. We're going to see a lot of things starting to take place that are being taken over in different ways. Tell me what your opinion of this stuff is.
I think that there is very likely a concerted effort afoot. Number one, if you're not spending any money with them, they don't want you anymore.
That's right.
They really don't. And they've got the algorithms that, they're only going to work if you are constantly on Facebook, constantly on your page, constantly spending money with them. Number two, I think that they really do want to get rid of a certain faction. Anyone who is selling what you're selling, what I'm selling, which is truth and honesty and information and empowerment, they don't want that.
That's correct.
So they're getting rid of people like that, especially if you're still, by their standards, pretty small. It's very easy. I get emails telling me that my videos from my interviews they're going to come down off Facebook because they've got 30-second sets of someone's music. They think it's their music. When I follow the link, it's not even my interviews. There's someone else's interviews on the same network. And it says that you can argue this point, go here, go there, but then you can't press any of the buttons to get.
Well, that's why we don't do much on YouTube. Yeah. YouTube, I use a lot of music. Much of it is my own original music, and we get tagged all the time for people saying it's theirs. And then the stuff that I do use that isn't mine, I purchased and I have license for, and we still get it. What happens is many musicians today, go and sell their music to some of these people that sell it to me, and then they double dip. They claim that the music is theirs, and as soon as I tell them who I bought it from, they release the claims, but it's a lot of hassle.
Well, that's the other thing. Give you more
Unbelievable.
hassle to make it. It's not worth your while any longer.
It's not worth your while. And
It's
YouTube
worth.
says, well, just go to YouTube and use our music that we give, but their music is junk. And it's really awkward to find what you're looking for. It's very difficult. They don't have a good system at all for that. So
It's part of a what I think of as silencing voices. There's silence in voices.
I
We
think
don't
that's
have
it.
freedom of speech anymore. We can't say what we think. We're policed, completely, and everybody is sticking to that. Oh dear, how dare you say that word?
Exactly.
Um, if you're not towing a particular line, boom, you're off of social media. And I think this policing is happening in every area of our lives. And it's happening on our YouTubes, it's happening on our Facebook pages, it's happening everywhere.
It is. It absolutely is. And it's interesting because most people don't have a clue that it's happening to them, especially if it's on Facebook or it's on Facebook or if it's on YouTube and they get a copyright claim. They make it almost impossible to find out what to do or where to go. They'll give you links, but then you have to go to the three little dots and find something under a separate menu that they don't tell you about. It's absolutely unbelievable, some of the stuff that we have to deal with to do
The
that. So
same thing's happening with many of these large corporations, is that no one has customer service teams anymore. You can talk to a bot, but that only goes
that's
so
it.
far. They can't answer every question. You cannot get anybody to listen to you. The only place I've ever found, right? And one of them, I hate to say it because I can't stand the company, and that's Amazon.
Amazon, they give us a phone number.
You can write to Jeff, and it finds its way to somebody who comes back to you. You can write to Apple. You can write to,
That's correct.
what's his name? And I've actually had phone calls within 15 minutes.
I,
You know,
I have called Amazon and gotten an Amazon representative in this country. You can actually tell you ask them where they're coming from. They're coming from Virginia. They're coming from wherever it is. And I
yeah.
was very surprised that they're still doing that, but very thrilled because they
Try
solve
it with
problems.
Zoom, and you get nowhere.
Yeah. No.
You
Facebook
try it
is,
with a lot of other
I
companies.
am convinced that Facebook has very few employees. They're all robots. For the most part, it's all algorithms that they use for pretty much everything now. And there's all these places that are popping up for my business that will sell me one of those chat boxes, they call it, which is an automated chat box, which simply says, if you have a question, we're going to send you to the FAQ where you're going to have to read all this stuff to be, thanks. That's not why I clicked on the chat box, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
it's basically
It
coming
ran
down
in
to the money.
circles.
It's coming down to the money versus the people. That's really what is happening. And
And and and that's it, isn't it? I
yeah,
mean, everything nowadays is all about money
it is.
in a way that it's never been before.
No, we have rules against monopolies. We don't have those rules anymore. We have in our Constitution that there's a separation of church and state. Guess what? That's gone. That's completely gone.
Yeah.
The money has taken over a lot of this stuff, and it might get worse here coming up with these elections. We'll just have to wait and see.
I think it will.
Yeah, that's sad. Anyway, this has been fun. This has been fun. What else would you like to cover before we go here?
I don't know. I'll probably think of something after
as
we.
soon as we stop. Sandie Sedgbeer, thank you for your time, sweetheart. You've really helped spread a lot of light on this planet, not just with us, but with all of these people that you've touched. You've made things available in very plain, simple language to understand. You help us all reach a higher level. Thank you for your work.
Thank you for that, Steve. And I think, as long as we all remember that we can make a difference, we do have to combat this by being ourselves and, holding on to integrity and truth.
We absolutely do.
Yeah.
And with that, I'll say goodbye for now. Thanks for being with us here in the Backstory podcast. We appreciate it. A spabo to everyone. Thank you for taking your power.